Hi everyone, Delisi here, and welcome to season 3 of College and Career Coffee Chats with Delicia. Make sure you have your cafecito, tea, whatever floats your boat to drink with me on this conversation and journey. If you're watching this online, the video version, you'll see that I have very poetically two circles behind me in balance, and then my purple NYU cup. And I'll update you all on NYU. And also, how fitting these two circular kind of decorations behind me as my birthday month is coming. October 4th is my birthday, if you didn't know this. Hella Libra, and I'm hella into astrology. So it's just very magical and very fitting. And I want you to share that with me in this moment and kind of see that. I'll post it on social media as well so you can visually see the imagery because I think it's so powerful as I open up this birthday month portal. I'm recording this September 20th, which is 2 days before the fall equinox, right 2, 3 days before Libra season starts. So it's a shift in energy, a shift in momentum, and what's going on in the universe, in the astros, and also being in tune with nature and the movement of the seasons and how that shifts in our body and how that shifts in our world and how to pay more attention to that. So, even though this podcast is about college and career and figuring out your life, within figuring out your life is also figuring out who you are as your most authentic self and what tools do you use to navigate that in this earthly realm. And perhaps I'll evolve this podcast into something else versus college and career technical stuff, but more conversations around identity and self and your spiritual side, because that's also part of your tools and part of your becoming successful in your life as it relates to career, self, academia, and just your own personal life. We exist outside of work and outside of academia as well, and not just those spaces. So, what is the point of this podcast? I started it in 2020 as kind of an omen to myself as what I wish had existed when I was a student and a recent graduate back in 2014. So, sharing my journey, sharing my stories in community with other guests where they shared their stories and their experiences as it relates to being first generation, Hispanic, coming from immigrant families or from typically underrepresented communities, talking about study abroad, career choices, majors, and minors. And as we move into season 3, and as I move into a reset in my own personal life, professional work life, and also what I want this podcast to sound and be like, we're going to shift the energy into more conversations about how do people live their most authentic, badass life. And that can relate to career choices, life choices, partnership, whatever that looks like for you. And obviously, we'll still talk about the nitty gritty, like resume, cover letter, interview prep, and all the personal statements and grad school admissions tools. But I want this to have another layer to that. So this season is really about that. I'm interviewing people who work in tech. I'm working people who work in creative industries, people who have started in one place and went to a totally different career and made transitions and how they navigated those choices and what tools they use to make that happen. Because sometimes as first generation Latina, child of immigrants, we get caught up in making choices that make it worth that our parents immigrated to the United States, right? If you don't know this about me, my family grew up in Paraguay. They're from Paraguay. My parents were born there. I actually lived there for about 5 years when I was in my teen years. So I have a very unique relationship to the motherland and my community and family there. And then in obviously living in the United States right now. But there's this sense of armor that first generation students carry, which is we have to make it worth it that our parents immigrated here and we hustle and we get the corporate job, we get the academic job, we get the degrees, we get everything that we think we need to do, which is great. If you do that, great. If that's your choice, awesome. I'm also doing that. But also giving ourselves space to process like, what is it that we actually want to do? Where do we actually want to go? And I know some people don't have the luxury to quit their 9 to 5 and travel, or don't have the luxury to start a side hustle or their business, because we have to survive in this very material world. So I'm not here to make you feel bad if you can't make those choices, but really take a moment to process and unpack that armor and give yourself at least 10, 20, 30 minutes, an hour to dream, to explore, to see beyond what we can do in this job work environment. And that takes a lot of space and time and permission to do because it might feel uncomfortable that, oh my God, I can take time to think about what I want, right? You kind of feel guilty or shame around it. So beginning to unpack that is kind of the opening for season 3, because in the last 5 years, that's something that I've unpacked on my journey, and I want to share that. Hopefully, people will resonate, and that will really support students and recent grads and anyone in their career, mid-level professional, upper level professional, whoever this story resonates. I hope it reaches you, and I hope you feel supported in this story and in this space. And that's why I started this podcast, to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel that your story is worthy of telling and that you belong as you are without having to make alterations and changes to fit the larger narrative and assimilate to the white supremacist society. But that's a conversation for another podcast episode. So this particular episode is opening up that conversation and how it's going to evolve in season 3, and really share with you updates in my life and what's been going on behind the scenes, because I have also taken a little break from social media, also have not posted consistently with the podcast because I want to reboot it. I want to reshift it, maybe change the name. So if you have any thoughts on what that could be, let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram or TikTok, or email me. I'm thinking embrace the journey, as cheesy as it sounds, but or live the dream, which I say all the time, which is also cheesy, but I'm a cheesy person sometimes. Um, so 3 things. Number 1 is I have decided to go back to graduate school. I accepted a position at New York University, in New York, Manhattan, NYU, and I'll be studying interdisciplinary studies. It's experimental humanities and social engagement. So it's a very interdisciplinary global program where I will be taking a lot of mediums and forms and talking about historical memory. This is the academic part. You can fast forward if you don't want to hear this, but in my undergrad, I studied psychology, Spanish with a minor in educational studies. For my honors thesis, which was conjoined with my Spanish major thesis, I did a comparative analysis with the Spanish Civil War and false memory production in historical memory studies and methodology. So what does that mean? I argued that through the creation of art, history, literature, and film, we have the potential to create false memories of what happened in the past. So in this case, the Spanish Civil War. And I wanted to add a second layer to that, which is the exclusion of Paraguayan history in Latin American studies programs, which is the La Guerra de la Triple Alianza, or the Triple Alliance War, the longest dictatorship in South America, through Stroessner in Paraguay, and then the Movimiento 14 de Mayo, which is not taught or studied, which is a revolution activist movement in direct opposition to the dictator, which was founded by my grandfather, Mario Esteche. So all those 3 layers of history are not taught in Latin American studies, in Paraguayan history, and even in Argentina and Brazil, a lot of places don't teach this, so people don't know. And it's a very important regional historical moment to unpack and talk about and study, because if we don't talk about those wounds, the intergenerational, intergeographical, transnational trauma is not going to be healed. And that's something that I'm very passionate about to study, not only in academia representation, but also personal healing journey. It's deep, deep ancestral work and deep, deep ancestral knowledge and understanding that I want to share. So I'm studying it, and I'm going to create projects about it through my thesis for my graduate studies program. That's a personal choice that I made to go back to graduate school. That may not work for you, but if it is something you're interested in, please explore. let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to share it with you, my journey, more in depth. So that's a big update. So if you would like to learn more about Paraguayan historical memory, please follow Memorias Históricas Paraguay on Instagram. And I will drop all the links here. That's where I will be disseminating a digital archive project to talk about these historical moments. So make sure you check that out, number one. Number two, yes, I had to move back to New York City from Florida, which is where I'm currently. My parents moved here in December. I think I talked a little bit about in the last couple episodes. But if you didn't know, I moved from Pennsylvania to Florida. I was here for 9 months and then had to move back to New York City. But in this current moment, when I'm recording this, I'm actually in Florida, hence these beautiful two globes behind me, is because my grandmother passed away last week. So I really want to be home. So I came home. And I couldn't go to Paraguay for various reasons. I just started grad program, so need to focus on that. But also, my parents were able to travel, so I'm happy my dad was able to go and be part of that culmination and that cycle in his life, burying his mother. As sad as it is, we will miss her, Abuela Maria. She was my godmother. It's part of life. So I wanted to be in a space where it was home. So that was Florida in this moment. So I'm recording this here and sharing kind of in real time what's going on in my life because as I started graduate school, I wanted to make the commitment to share this journey and share this story for representation and belonging. For anyone who identifies as first generation Latina, child of immigrants, to see that they can be seen and heard and take up space in academic spaces if that's what you want to do. And also that your research and that your stories matter. I'm intentionally doing this graduate program to intentionally show up and bring to the table Paraguayan history that I believe needs to be studied. And that's taking up space in a country that no one knows where it is and sometimes even say doesn't exist. So, and also it's important to note that I'm recording this during Hispanic Heritage Month 2022 or Latine, Latinx, Latina Heritage Month, Country of Origin Celebration Month, however you want to identify this month, because we don't stop being Latinos um, at all. That's literally us the rest of our life, or Latino, whatever that means. We'll unpack that too in another episode. However, this particular podcast episode is to give a life update, to talk through what the podcast is going to transform into, what I want the journey of this podcast to be. So if you are listening and want to share your story as it relates to how you make your choices, how you show up your most authentic self, even if you don't identify as Latina or Latina, please let me know. I would love to host you on this podcast as a guest. This is not only for Latinos, by Latinos. I want this to be as inclusive as possible. So, like I said, an update on life, an update on the journey of the podcast, and also Delilingo Academy. I will still be hosting workshops, online masterminds, and one-on-one coaching sessions, probably in a limited capacity, since I will be focusing in this season of my life on my research. However, I will still be creating content on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram for the community to feel supported as well as represented in graduate school admissions, graduate school support, figuring out your next steps in your life support and coaching will still exist. So make sure that you let me know if you're interested in any of these resources and in any of these services via Instagram, via TikTok, via email. You can reach me at delilingo@gmail.com or Instagram, Deli the Explorer, TikTok, Deli the Explorer, YouTube, Delilingo Academy. And of course, this podcast will be disseminated on YouTube for the visual form and audio wherever you listen to your podcast. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Hello, what is it called? iHeartRadio. That's the other one. Okay. So that's my update, and I hope you all feel seen and heard and get excited for this new podcast season. I have really amazing guests coming on. They work in tech, they work in the creative industries like the fashion industry. They live and work in Manhattan, and they've taken temp jobs and been all over the world, and just like really cool stories to share that it doesn't have to be, the path is not linear. I said that in season two. That was season two's mantra. The path is not linear. Maybe that should be the podcast new name. I don't know. If you have ideas, let me know. Because this is going to encompass more than just college and career, which is, I'm glad that's how it started because that's something important to me as an advisor and as an educator. However, I want this to have another layer to it now that as we move into this new season of my life. And remind you that you can also make changes. You can also revisit and re-envision what you want your life to look like and take those steps to change it and make it happen. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to support you, motivate you, and guide you on that journey as well. So stay tuned for season 3 of the podcast, which will be launching very soon, most likely in the next couple days with this fall equinox as we open the portal of Libra season and my birthday coming up October 4th. And make sure that you are taking time for yourself to rest, recharge, regenerate as the seasons change, as the climate changes, as the light and day changes, and honor yourself, your body, your space. And I hope you feel seen, heard, and represented in this podcast. If you have any feedback, any ideas, any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to listen and hop on a call with you and chat through it. So thank you for listening. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe so more people can see it. And have a fabulous day. Beijos.